Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I am John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Simple topic, let's do it. What's the most creeped out you've ever been? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Not really scary, creepy, but still a little unsettling. When me and my friends were in high school, we were looking at different history books, and one of the girls pointed out a photograph she saw in a book about the Vietnam War. It was just a random picture of some army dudes in the jungle, but the guy in the foreground looked exactly like me. All of us were freaking out a little because it wasn't just, hey, that guy looks like you, but more, dude, that guy is you. I have no knowledge of being a 20-year-old infantryman in Vietnam in 1968. Marathoning unsolved mystery videos and then realizing you're alone. It's gotten dark. You haven't turned on a single light in the house. You have several windows wide open, and your front door may or may not be locked. I was at a state campground with my boyfriend at the time. He's my husband now, our dog, and his parents and sister. Our campsite couldn't hold 3 cars, so boyfriend and I parked our car at the bathroom area right next to our campsite. It was probably 9 to 10 p.m. the first night we were there, and my dog wasn't going to the bathroom because she was nervous being in a new place. Boyfriend and I needed to get a blanket out of the car, so we walked through the woods a little bit with our dog to see if she would go potty on the way to our car. We were walking on the dirt path from the bathroom to our car. I was walking our dog and she was smelling stuff, so I was a little behind my boyfriend, and my dog's hair stands up on her neck, and she turns to the left, which got my attention, so I looked as well, and there was a guy who came out of nowhere, walking really quickly towards us. I call out my boyfriend's name and say, "Hey babe, here are the keys to my car," and throw them to him, and the guy immediately turned around and ran into the woods. We left the campground that night because of how creeped out I felt. I biked through a village in Central America, not sure which country, Guatemala maybe, and it gave me this pretty creepy feeling which I couldn't describe, just a general impression that the place had a bad energy. As I was going through, my eyes fell on a woman and her kid who seemed to be waiting for transportation on the side of the road, next to a burning pile of garbage, pretty common sight. There was a dead man on the ground. His face was half burnt and quite smoky. The rest was just lying there next to that kid and his mom who gave 0 F's about it. I didn't stop in that village. Just a couple of weeks ago, while I was walking home from work, I work in a small industrial estate, so there's plenty of trees surrounding the area, quite a lot of them on the path I have to take to get home. As I was walking by, I'd noticed the guy stood in the trees dressed in all black, face covered, etc., but I didn't really think much of it because it was still light outside. I kind of just thought to myself, what's going to happen in daylight? And carried on. Anyway, I walked past him and I hear he's turned his music up loudly on his phone and stepped out from the trees behind me. So straight away I'm well aware something isn't quite right. He walks in front of me and around the corner, where there's even more trees. I looked around the corner and noticed he was gone. Totally strange, because the path is ridiculously long and there's no way he got to the end of it that fast. I stand there for a few minutes looking around and notice he has stood in the trees again, staring right at me. By this point his music is off, hence why I struggled to find where he was initially. He starts walking towards me and turns his music up again. I froze. I didn't know what the hell to do. That was until I looked straight ahead and saw a guy walking toward us. So I ran straight towards him and asked him to pretend to know me. As soon as I'd asked him to talk to me, he knew something was wrong. He saw the guy behind me and offered to walk with me until I felt safe. The guy following me ran away, so yeah, this is probably one of the most creeped out I've ever been. I'm so glad that man was walking on the same path as us at that time. I have no idea what would have happened otherwise. I mean, that person could have been doing one of many things, and none of them were probably good. I was followed home walking back to my condo one afternoon. Usually I pay more attention, but it was the middle of the day and I live in a decent area. I was listening to my headphones I realized after catching a glimpse of a guy I had seen blocks back in a blue shirt in my phone reflection right behind me. Even then, I wasn't sure if it was just a coincidence. My condo is the last building before an area that hasn't been kept up very well. It's in the middle of construction and kind of abandoned past my building. I thought, well, whatever, I'll just take the stairs on the left that lead to the lobby doors instead of the obvious choice, which is the stairs on the right. Both stairs lead to the same door, but taking the left side just isn't what you would naturally do. The stairs start almost immediately after the crosswalk. I did this quickly and heard him kind of shuffle, stop, and then start up the right side stairs. I darted to the lobby door, scanned my fob, opened the door, and looked back. He had walked back down the right side stairs back towards the crosswalk. He looked back at me and smirked. It wasn't like a friendly smirk either. It was kind of pissed and off-putting facial expression. I just stared at him, and he stared back. I went inside. What really weirded me out about it was that I can't explain where he was going unless he was following me. He didn't end up coming into my building, and past my building is that empty area. I can't help but think he thought I was walking past that area and got tripped up when I went to my building in kind of a quick, different manner that he may have expected. I pay more attention now. Years ago, I would go smoke in the dense wooded area of a large park, vape so no fires. Had urges to be alone in nature despite the dangers. On my last visit, autumn was apparent as the leaves had fallen and were extra crunchy. I found the well-known sitting log and plopped. After about 20 minutes, a guy my age, mid-20s, was now stepping out of the immensely dense vegetation before me and was walking straight towards me from about 50 yards away. I thought, well, this could be a coincidence and perhaps he doesn't see me. I watched and took notice of how the setting sun took the color with it. The landscape was gray. He was still walking towards me. This was no coincidence. At about 10 yards, I stood up, rushed my hands into my jacket pocket, clutched the mace, and walked in unison with him, except I was walking sideways, watching him with my whole body. We walked like this, watching each other, until we made it back to the asphalt road. He didn't have any particular expression, but mostly he didn't give any look to me that showed he was sorry to spook me. This, plus his age, made me speculate I was meant to be this guy's first victim, but my actions and mysterious pocket items threw him off. I speed-walked right onto my car. This intense feeling told me not to look back or run. A twisted waltz called "Let's Pretend This Didn't Happen." I never heard any leaves crunch before he appeared. He was there before me, hiding. There's this abandoned psych center near my house. Yeah, great start. And it's popular for people to find ways in and explore. Once, when my group of friends went, I was only one of 2 girls, and the guys went into this tunnel area to check and see if it was safe before all of us went in, and so we stayed behind. It's broad daylight, and we're in this courtyard area in between 2 buildings and hear organ music. Literally still get chills thinking about it. It was so clear and actually really beautiful. When the guys came back, we searched the building we heard the music coming from, only to find nothing. Safe to say I haven't been back since. Also, please, FBI, don't come find me. When my young daughter said she was talking to a ghost, then when I asked who she said, she wasn't sure, but it looked like her grandma, my mom. So I called my mom just to set myself at ease and could not get a hold of her or anyone else in my family to verify she was still alive and well. It was a scary half hour until I finally got word from my brother she was okay. After a night out, I came home and went to bed. As soon as my head hit the pillow, I heard a loud, booming voice. "Praise Jesus. Save your sinful souls." I, an atheist, was scared shitless. That's it, the rapture. I'm about to collapse when the voice starts to distort. Now all I can hear is typical radio noise. I look around my room in confusion and eventually realizing that the noise is coming from my guitar amp. the amp picked up the radio signals from a nearby Catholic radio station. About 10 years ago, I was in high school and had to watch an old movie and a remake to compare the similarities and differences. I grabbed my laptop and went to our game room in our house. I laid on the couch and began watching. No lights on in the room, but the doors were open and the dining room lights were on. After about 15 to 20 minutes into the movie, the TV across the room turned on. I was adjusting on the couch, so I figured I was on the remote and that I hit the power button. But as I sat up to search the couch cushions, I saw the remote was in the middle of the floor. Nobody around, and there's no way the remote recently landed there without me noticing. I instantly slammed the laptop closed and went into the other room with my family. I waited a day, then scrolled the internet for what parts of the movie I should write about. Haven't watched either of those movies since. I have phobias, and I'm not going to talk supernatural shit, but other than that crap, this one time I went down into this older man's basement, and he was showing me around, and I was young and wasn't used to being rude to people when I felt scared. Was okay with this, even though no one knew where I was. And he stopped, took a moment to take a breath, then turned to me with a smile and told me that this next room was really interesting, and I effing bolted up the stairs and out of the house. I didn't even have time to process that I was scared, but I remember coming out into the sunshine, and all the hair on my neck and arms was standing up, and I was freezing cold. I don't know how the hell I survived my late teens and early 20s, but Lord, that adrenaline and fear sense is worth gold. I teach my daughter about the gift of fear, and how being rude is better than being dead now. When I got followed by a guy in a van while I was walking home, he kept driving probably no more than 5 miles per hour behind me and kept circling the block and following me again, honking once. I never turned around because I didn't want this person to get a good look at me. This carried on for a while. I kept looking around in an exaggerated way, surveying my environment to make it abundantly clear that I was looking for an escape route if he got out of the car. I started speed walking and he drove over after that, one street from my house. Maybe dramatic, but I thought that was the day I'd become a statistic. If you're not a tradesperson, like a carpenter, electrician, etc., and you go to the car store and say, you know what I need? A white van. Probably going to be judged. Me, my brother, and my dad would go camping sometimes in winter when I was young. One time we went to an island where they had this derelict holiday park. I bet it would look presentable in summer when it would be filled with vacation goers, but in winter at night it looked creepy AF. So, when bedtime rolls around, off I went to brush my teeth. It was dark, and I had to walk all the way to the empty and also creepy toilet building and do my business. I have to mention at this point that there were a lot of empty trailers with dark windows, and that the park seemed totally deserted, so you can imagine my surprise and horror when I walked back to our camper van and the spot was empty. What the F? So I wander all around this mother effing creepy derelict holiday park in the freaking cold in my PJs, all the while getting more and more desperate and scared. Where the duck did my dad park the van? Did I misremember we were set up? That could not be. I know it was there. So I look all around these scary-ass empty trailers to no avail. Then, in pure desperation, I just walk back to our original spot. That is obviously empty, right? Well, turns out my dad moved the van to get the electric cables to reach the outlet. Not much, maybe 5 meters, but just enough to obscure the view from the path behind a creepy trailer. 12-year-old me didn't have a great night. Sorry for grammar. Mobile. If not related to a dream or various tornado warnings, I don't do well with tornadoes, then the following. I was 16 to 17, and my ex and his friends fancied themselves urban explorers, which really was just code for let's break into places at night that have no trespassing signs. They came home in the early AM, fairly weirded out. said they had found some old house and gone into it. It was thoroughly abandoned, but they found a large floor freezer with chains and a lock, dried red stuff all around. They were about to cut through it, because of course you need bolt cutters for your illegal hobby, when there was a screeching sound, accompanied by a cold breeze, and they all fled. As he was sharing this, the cat had gone to the window and was staring outside at the tree branches intently. Nothing broke her concentration. Then she fluffed and bolted, and I felt my chest getting heavy, and it was hard to breathe, this whole feeling of just a cursed presence. I mean, I was super tired, emotionally distraught from the constant abuse. The freezer probably had meth and rust, if it even existed at all, and the cat was just doing cat things, but it sincerely freaked me out. Like the old saying goes, no good deed goes unpunished. So, well, you're a good friend. Did a favor for a friend who had a show they needed someone to go through and transcribe the tape of. They offered me a nice sum of money since they were in a bit of a bind, so I said sure, I'd do it. It was a new show or something. Okay, no big deal. They needed it pretty fast, so I said I'd do it overnight. My husband and kids were out of town on a camping trip, so I figured I could work straight through and make a little extra money. And I had trouble sleeping by myself when everyone was gone, so why not? Unfortunately, it turned out to be one of those true ghost story shows, and some of the stories were very intense and pretty convincing footage at one point of a ghost caught on camera. And there I was, in a house in the woods, completely by myself, in the dead of night, and having to work on this damned things because I'd said, oh, sure, I have that to you by 6 a.m. No problem. I'm not sure if this counts as something that's creeped me out per se, but last summer I had an experience that still freaks me out whenever I think about it. I was camping with a few friends, including the girl I have considered my absolute best friend for the past few years. That night, I had a dream about a girl I swear that I have never seen before in my life. In this dream I was crying and thinking about all the good times I had had with her, my best friend, the girl in the dream, not the real person with me, and I were grief-stricken with the thought that I would never get to see her again. I was left with a strong emotion that I had lost someone close to me, and when I woke up, I felt as if I was still crying. Over that day, I still feel this huge sadness over losing this girl. Her face is seared into my brain to this day. Every time I think of her, that emotion returns. I work nights, which is why I'm here now. On my days off, I still keep my schedule of sleep and wake time because I'm older now, and I can't switch back and forth without trouble. Anyway, one night on my weekend, I'm at home, I'm working on my computer, and then I decide to go downstairs to cook up a quick early morning dinner. As I come down the stairs and past the living room, I see a face in the window. It was some guy standing on my porch, just staring into my house. Now, there's street lights outside, and it's pitch dark in my living room, so I know he can't see me or much of what's in the living room. I figure it's some kid casing my house and weighing a break-in. The solution comes to me quickly. He can't see past a foot or so into my house, so he'll see what I give him to see. I took my glasses off, leaned backwards, and shuffled back towards the window, real abruptly. So on his side, out of nowhere, an upside-down face lunges at the window. I'm not a pretty man. That guy almost broke his leg jumping off my porch. I've never seen someone run so hysterically before. I think he shit his pants. Not the most I've been creeped out, but I feel like it was probably his. When a 69-year-old man asked me if he could pick me up from my college after denying giving him my number to take me to lunch because I made his heart flutter. The creeped out part comes from after denying him, he asked me if I wanted to pretend he was my grandfather, so that I would feel a little bit better about the whole thing.